want to start a show?
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's start a show. Danny, it's been a long time. How are you?
Holy cow. I think I remember you. You look familiar.
Yeah, it has been a while, man. I'm Joe,
Joe, what's
by the
going
way.
on, man?
I'm Joe.
Yeah.
From
I see your name tag.
the southwest suburbs of Chicago.
Nice.
I like bicycles.
So sweet.
I like dogs.
Yes, you do.
married.
Especially Rock.
Yeah, I am married. Lovely wife from Spain. How you doing, man?
I can't complain.
Yeah.
It's been super long, man. It's been a super long time since we did the pod. It's been
since we've done a pod, but not that long since we've seen each other. So I mean,
no, we met recently over a light bite in the suburbs.
Yeah.
And a drink.
Yeah, just to catch up on things a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, that was fun. We went to Gibson's Steakhouse, which is a small chain. I think they're a small chain in Chicago area. I don't know if they're beyond Chicago. I have no idea, but they have a handful of locations. And I owe Joe a steak dinner, and we went and got a steak dinner. We actually had the same exact steak, a ribeye.
It was, yeah, we did. I think, we both like that cut, and we both like meat every once in a while. So that was good. Yeah, it was delicious. How about that? We had the cream of spinach. The mushrooms. I think I think the mushrooms were your pick. The cream of spinach, and then the waitress showed up, and she's like, "Anything else?" And I'm like, "Fries. I want fries."
That's right.
Yeah, just like I threw a fries in there, and caught her off guard.
Just to keep it real.
Well, yeah. I mean, something salty.
They're good fries.
They are good. Yeah, they're good fries. But she noted a bit of hesitation in your eyes, and she pointed that out. And she's like, "So, I think she decided to bring us half."
As I had said to you, my default is potatoes au gratin. Mm-hmm. That's like what I only ever really eat it at like nicer restaurants because that's usually where it's really good, and it's like a staple on so many. But they didn't have it. I was kind of surprised. They had like 5 kinds of potatoes, but not my au gratin. So anyway, that was super fun. Catching up, and it's always quite an experience going into like a kind of a classic steakhouse, like especially in the burbs. Like, remember I was saying like in the bar area where I was waiting for you, I grabbed a pint of Guinness and I was hanging out like a fly on the wall, observing the locals. And wow, what a cast of characters! Like, I don't know, maybe I watched Goodfellas too much, but like, there were some guys in there. I'm like, these guys, they look a little mafioso.
Yeah, they look like they were in the concrete business, or some sort of something where they can make you disappear.
I got a guy. Yeah, that was super funny and fun. Good times. Joe, do you know how many days it's been since our last pod? I just pulled it up.
I dare not count the days, Danny. I know it's been a while.
83.
Has it really been that long? 83 days since we did
August 3rd.
Really?
August 3rd. Yep. And we're almost done with October.
Good old Willie Galt. Almost 3 months of no show.
Yeah,
that's
man.
Ridiculous.
Yep.
What have we been doing with our time? You'd think like, there was a bicycle season and, work and all sorts of things going on.
Here we are caught up after, would you call that a hiatus? I know it's a word you'd like.
Yeah, hiatus is very show businessy. A break, a break in show business. They call that hiatus. And
hiatus.
And it's a good word. I like it. It makes it sound better than just taking a break. But I don't think it was a purpose. Like we did it on purpose. I think we had the full intention of doing another show, but then things kind of take over. And I think it was right after we built your bike, right? It was kind of like
it was
shortly after we had built your bicycle. And that's right about the time. That must have been like sometime at beginning of August. Is that right? Is that like when we did
August 3rd? That's the one we did with AJ. That was our 50th anniversary pod, if you will.
Yeah.
Our 50th episode. And you'd done one since solo after that with a gentleman you met in your shop, I think.
Yeah, that was just something that I had in the can from late spring. We had not done a show in a little bit, and I thought, well, why don't I put this up there for our listeners to hear while we get our stuff together and pull a show, together. And, it hasn't happened until now. So,
there you go.
You know what, that squares with kind of the pace at the bike shop. I think like I was able to kind of hold it together until about the beginning of August. We had built your bike, and I think when we built your bike, that episode there, maybe the week after that, kind of put, I had some mechanical help up until that point at the bike shop.
Right.
I had a new guy.
Right.
And I think, I really think, partly because of your bicycle, because of the complexity of a new modern bicycle, and the realization of how much he was going to have to learn. It kind of pushed him over the edge and helped him exit the bike shop at that point. And that left me kind of holding a lot of responsibility in terms of like fixing things, Now I had to step into the mechanic role again. So,
sure.
I mean, that was kind of, it was actually, I was grateful that happened at that point in the season, that it happened early and that I knew, rather than him, like getting to this point and believing that I had a mechanic, to help me with stuff. So.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it was an interesting period.
Well, it was cool because he exploded on you. He had a moment of like just total frustration, and it was just like it was. I thought it was. I'd seen it before, and just to see it again, like after 15 years, it was just kind of a 15 or 20 years. I mean, it's been a while since I've seen that happen. I was like, wow, that's I remember that,
Yeah, it was interesting. But the big story there was that Joe sold me a new bike. Not the first one you've sold me, but maybe not the last. But yeah, I got a Super 6 Evo 1 from Cannondale, and we built it up, and I love it. I gotta say, just as a informal brief review since I got it, I've been riding the cross bike a lot. We can talk about that more recently, but I did put, I don't know, a couple thousand miles on it before cross season started. So fantastic bike. Love it. It met and exceeded all my expectations. Remember, I did all that research and I was like so stoked on that bike.
And did you actually do some road racing on that bike as well? Did you jump into a couple of crits?
No.
Okay.
I jumped into one race, a gravel race, my first ever gravel race.
Okay.
And I did it on that bike. Well, short version is I was just like getting some fitness back. I have a long way to go, but I was starting to get some fitness back, and I was like, I'm being coached now, so it's like I was hitting my workouts like pretty well, and I was like, I just jumped on my computer one day. I was at Bike Reg. If people don't know, Bike Reg is the kind of go-to place to find bike races in your area, in your region, in your state, in your in the Midwest and beyond. Anyway, so I went there and I was just poking around. I'm like, oh shit, there's a gravel race this weekend in Manhattan, Illinois.
Okay.
Where my sister used to live for a long time. So I used to drive out there quite a bit for like Sunday dinners and stuff. So I actually I don't know the roads well, but I know the area-ish. And so I'm like, yeah, there is a lot of gravel out there. It's just gravel and like cornfields. It's like, it reminds me of DeKalb where I went to school. So anyway, I found out it was called the Little Apple Gravel Race. And so I don't know if you can guess why it's called the Little Apple.
The Little Apple.
See what they did there?
I gotcha.
There you go.
Yeah.
So, it's funny, when I actually lived in New York City, I lived in Manhattan for 1 year. I used to fly home from Manhattan to Manhattan for Christmas stuff. So it was Manhattan to Manhattan. We used to always have a fun time with that. But anyway, there's this really cool gravel race. They have like three distances. There's the long one for the super fast folks, and there's the medium, and then the shorter one. I just jumped into like the 50K, which is 30 so miles. So it was my first race in 4 years, and I'm like, I'm just, I'm going to take it easy. But I kind of want to jump into something. So long story short, jumped into that. Super fun. It was like great. It was a great day out. Sarah came and gave me some great support. So I ended up putting the night before. So someone was telling me I could ride like 28 mil tires, and I was like, huh, okay, because it's like, you know, like more hard pack gravel. And I'm like, all right. And I saw, just totally serendipitously, I saw this guy on Instagram, and he was out reconning the gravel roads for the race. And he, you know, I don't know if he was a pro photographer or just amateur, but he took some really like nice shots, and he took like a really good shot of the gravel. And I was like, it stopped me in my tracks, no pun intended. And I was like, whoa. And I'm like, you can't ride 28s on that shit. So I actually DM'd him. I was like, hey man, just curious, like what kind of tires you're going to be running. Someone said I could run 28s. And he's like, oh, I would definitely not run 28s. So fortunately, in my closet, I had a pair of brand new unused Gravel Kings, 32 mil with some really, really sweet tread profile. So I threw those on with my latex tubes, and I used those, and I got through fine. No issues, no crashes, no flatties, and had a really good time. So I was in a small group. And then at some point I fell off the back of the group. So I kind of rolled in like 7th. I don't know. I think like 20 or 30 of us started. So
nice.
I was able to hang on. There were 3 guys. It was kind of funny because it was like getting me right back into like race mode. So there were 4 guys and me and down to the end of the peloton, if you want to call it that. 3 of the guys were all from the Triple X team, which, as you may know, is one of the biggest teams in Chicago. And I was like, all right, well, I'm definitely not working because these 3 guys, they're owning this damn little group. I actually made the mistake, and I did work twice. I did 2 pools. They weren't big, crazy pools, but it was because my fitness is where it's at. Like it was just enough to put me into the red once too many times.
Yeah.
So I fell off when they went up another rise. The climbs, of course, are barely even called climbs. Like they're just, you know, rolly kind of hills, or, you know, gentle hills, but they're just enough, like if you're in the red, right? So anyway, I did that, but it was super fun. It started and ended. They had Reg at like this roadside bar, but they actually had like really good food, like grilled burgers and stuff. So anyway, we had a great time. I met a bunch of cool people. There were some heavy hitters there.
Like local heavy hitters, or people that came in from the Midwest?
No, well, no, like Illinois. So do you know? I think we've talked about him, but do you know Strelecki? I'm sorry, Tim Strelecki is his first name. So Tim Strelecki. So he's on the cyclocross scene here in Chicago. He's he's a national champ in cyclocross, and he races road as well. He's an older gent like myself, and he is a former child 2-time world champion in BMX.
Oh, I thought you were going to say like tap dancer or something. I was going to get very excited here.
Yeah, but he's super fit, super fast, and just lives for racing. And I don't know what he does, but he just rides all the time, and he's amazing. He's amazing, like really cool guy to follow on Instagram. So if people are looking for a good follow Tim Strelecki. But he was there, and then the 2 guys who podiumed with him and who won, I'm drawing a blank on their name, but I looked them up, and of course, like they're like cycling coaches. They've raced for like really good teams. Like they're not former pros, they're younger guys, but like I think they're pretty national level or close to it. Anyway, that was the long race. So anyway, that was my long story short, not so much, but that was my first foray back into doing any kind of competitive cycling in 4 years. And I did it on the Evo, and the Evo was great. And I've been seeing like videos by like Ben Delaney and stuff. He's been doing like, he's been experimenting between like riding gravel races with road bikes, you know, with beefier tires and stuff, and then riding gravel races with gravel bikes. And, you know, depending on the course and stuff, like he's like, you know, a road bike is faster, like an aero road bike, and with like the better tires, it's just a faster bike. So he's been using that for some races, but then for like real, you know, hardcore gravel, he's using like the gravel bike with the big 40 plus tires or whatever. But anyway, nonetheless, worked out great for me. I'm so lucky I was on Instagram at that very moment. I saw that dude's pics, because 28s, I don't think I would have finished. I mean, there was a section called, I forget what it's called, but it was a long section. I mean, this stuff was so thick, like you were sinking into it, like that kind of gravel.
Sure, yeah.
And it was just I was probably doing 7 miles an hour. It was just a power, like you know, and it was a long section. Like it went on, and I was like, oh my God. But the rest was pretty fast.
I know there's people like in Iowa, and you know, there's like some people out there that just kind of laugh at what we think is gravel, because out there they like, you know, they have different ratings of gravel, like how intense the gravel gets, you know, like they know the numbers and the, you know, whatever.
Yep.
I've got a couple of friends that go out and, you know, they started racing gravel 10 years ago, you know, out in Iowa and doing some of these hardcore races. You know, I know that they always talked about it, you know, being rock basically, you know, like stones.
Right.
Know, so. Yeah.
The champagne gravel, excuse me, the champagne gravel is obviously, you know, as the name probably implies, like it's the nicest to ride. It's really hard for a hard pack. It's very fast. You know, you can get away on 28s, no problem. I've seen guys do it, but then you have like all the other grades leading up to like probably what I rode or some version of that, like really thick.
Especially when they like just put it down, you know, so I mean that stuff isn't, you know, that's not always hard packed. You know, if it's a newer section of gravel. So,
but I met some cool people too, some new people. Saw some older faces. It was so funny. I mean, it wasn't random, but it felt random in the sense like I just kind of did it last minute, and I saw some people, and I know Strelicky from like the cross scene and stuff. But then I met a new friend, Isaac. He is a transplant, I think, from Arkansas, but he had to move here. His partner is in med school, I think, in Chicago, but he's like super into like riding, and he's getting more into racing and stuff. So shout out to Isaac. And then just like some other folks. It was super fun. So that was the first little foray, and it was kind of interesting. Like I told you, I'd done my first gravel rides in Colorado, but those were just rides. You know, you kind of stop and wait for everyone at the next turnaround or turn point, whatever. But like to do an actual race, like that waves going off, and like I said, the longer versions of the race, you know, there are a lot of like serious, like clad, like arrow sock type dudes. Like I was like, okay.
And this was summer, right? So I mean, it was still hot. It was hot. September, right?
Yeah, this was. I have to double check. It was August. I'm pretty sure. August 13th, Sunday, August 13th. It was. I'm just looking at some photos here. They have a fun little Instagram if anyone's interested in the Little Apple gravel.
Okay. And that was the first annual Little Apple. Is that right? Is that the first one, or have they had multiples of these already?
They've had them before. I don't know how old this race is, but they've definitely had a few editions of it, I believe. And I think they're going to have it again. And it's just super fun. It felt like kind of grassroots, you know. It was like, it wasn't a huge production, but like they organized it really well. And it was, I mean, as far as I could tell, it was safe. Our race was safe. Like there were no like random cars like barreling past you. There were a couple cars on, you know, because it's a live kind of course, as it were. So there were a couple cars, but everyone was like super nice. They pulled over, they slowed down, they like waved and flashed their brights. So I didn't kind of know what to expect, because I've heard some stories. Like that's the thing about gravel is like a lot of times the roads aren't fully closed, I guess. So unless it's like a highly organized race, but even then, like I just saw people talking about Big Sugar, which was the big gravel race that happened over the weekend. That was the last of the Lifetime series that all the top like crazy pros do. And some of the footage was like pretty nuts. Like Drew Dillman has like, I think his name is Drew Dillman. He has a YouTube channel and he posts a lot of his rides and races. But yeah, there were like cars like literally coming up very close to the riders as they're barreling down descents. Gotcha. Like, I mean, it was really sketchy. But anyway, super fun. It was cool to have that race like in our backyard. You know, I was just like, this is amazing.
A virtual yellow line rule, I think, in gravel.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that's that. But bigger picture, I got the bike, loving that. And then we can talk about it a little bit later maybe. But yeah, then I kind of transition into cyclocross. Going back to what you were saying, the kind of hiatus coincided a little bit with the flow of the shop, the rhythm. Talk to me a little bit about how did things kind of end? I assume now you're in the winter phase or transitioning.
Yeah, certainly the off season. I mean, I think that's, you know, technically still mountain biking season, but, you know, it all depends on what the weather's going to look like here, whether it's going to be an extended season or not. We've had a lot of rain this fall, so that, you know, like it's raining today, and it influences the traffic on the trails quite a bit and influences business. You know, so if we'd had, you know, a nice dry fall, it'd certainly be a lot busier, but the rain has kind of put a damper on things a little bit, you know? but not bad.
Yeah.
Not complaining. There's still plenty of things going on at the shop. There's enough things to do to keep us busy, but certainly there's always a downturn this year specifically. I think it's been happening all, probably since August, September. I think most bike shops have noticed a real downturn in foot traffic. So, I'm still getting some repair business in the shop, but I think across the industry, things are trending down. The foot traffic was down, and there were a lot of people concerned about what was to come, and what's going to come this fall and winter in the bike business. So, yeah, it's but I think for small shops, small shops in general are faring pretty well. We're not, being small, you don't have a ton of inventory in stock. You don't have thousands of bikes you got to move and get rid of, and thousands of bikes you got to pay for. But some of those medium to large, especially larger size shops right now are, I know from being on dealer meetings that, some of those guys are in a tough spot at the moment. And before you know it, the 2024 bikes are going to start arriving if they haven't started to arrive already, and they're still holding 23 bikes. So I think that's been kind of the general trend, just kind of general talk in the industry right now, that, there's a lot of discounting going on. There's a lot of people trying to get rid of things. There's new things coming in. And there's, for I would say half the industry, is in a bit of a panic mode, and then there's the other half, kind of like us, the smaller shops that are, just kind of holding on and getting ready for winter. The kind of the usual thing that we always do. It's always good. It's always tight in the bike business for shops like us, and it's always kind of a waiting game till spring. But I think some shops right now are, those bills are coming in. I know that, because let's say you ordered a bunch of stuff in May and June, typically in the bike industry right now, those bills, the date, they call it dating or terms, that you get. A lot of those companies, they'll give you 3 months or 4 months to pay that bill. That puts it, right about now is when that big bill is coming in for those bikes that you got in May.
The guys from Gibson's are coming over.
Oh yeah. Those are the guys that are coming and knocking on your door. Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah, for sure.
But no, seriously, that's I suppose that's one of the advantages, right, of having a smaller shop. You don't have as much pressure and stress in that regard.
Yeah. No. It's certainly much easier to keep tabs on what you got going on. I think that in inventory, well, you don't have to carry as much. I think that's why that's the split right now in the bike industry. I think that, you've got almost half the bike shops in the country don't carry any of the 4 major brands right now. I was just reading something about that in one of the industry magazines. Yeah,
not any of them.
Not any of them. They don't carry Trek or Specialized or Giant or Cannondale. Let's say, like any of the pod brands. Like almost half the shops in the United States don't do any of those brands, and a lot of the reason they don't do them is because of the big buy-in that they would have to do with those brands. They're smaller, medium-sized shops who don't have room for that, or don't want to get themselves in trouble, or or couldn't afford to do that maybe when they started. Couldn't buy into one of those bigger brands, and at the end of the day, I think it's helped keep them alive. That they're not married to one of these brands. Yeah, you make a deal with the devil when you get into business with one of those big brands. And that, it's great because the name recognition's there. I have people that come into the bike shop every day and ask me if I sell Trek or Specialized, so those bikes in some cases kind of sell themselves. People come right in to look for the name brand. But, to continue to do business with them, you have to, every year you're buying, and they're never asking you to buy less, And
right.
so, that number just goes higher and higher. And Right now you've got a lot of other dealers out there that are holding the same product, and the discounting is big, and it's kind of like every man for himself right now in that world, So
yeah, you shared that article from Bicycle Retailer, and I was just scanning it.
Yeah,
had some interesting pull quotes there. There's a quote from a gentleman, Tom Mikowski, Bike Garage in Port Angeles, Washington. He said, in 2019, I decided to quit selling bicycles altogether. When we stopped selling bikes, there was no loss of income. Mm-hmm. That's pretty compelling.
Yeah. I mean, for like for a shop like mine, for example, like, you sell a lot of these, depending on where your bike shop is at and your clientele, he might have been selling a lot of bikes, but not a lot of margin on those bikes, a lot of busy work, and sometimes not having to build those bikes or sell those bikes, take the time to out of your day to sell those bikes and focus on repairs and juicy repairs, big repairs, and accessories, just focusing on maybe selling stuff to people, selling, parts and accessories to people. That is sometimes enough to, make up for that difference. And for a lot of shops, I think that's kind of been a general theme. I think that, there's, and like for me, not focusing so much on those entry level bikes and kind of focusing there's a lot of different models out there right now. I think in for those smaller shops, some people are still selling bikes like I am. I'm selling bikes, but I think in the future and moving forward, it's going to have to be a higher ticket bicycle in order for it to make sense.
So no more hybrids and more like introductory road bikes almost, or what are you thinking?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of that hybrid, a lot of that $500, $600, $700 bicycle business, a lot of the kid bike business has gone online. Now that Trek and Specialized and Cannondale are selling bikes via their websites, that customers just are buying. They're buying them online. I sold more. I had, the way the Cannondale works, and I still sell Cannondale at the shop. That customer buys the bike online, and then they pick their local the bike shop that they want it sent to. I build it, and they come in and they pick it up. But it's a real, just kind of a transaction when they do. These people they're not necessarily buying accessories or anything else. They're coming in, they're picking up a bike and walking out. On occasion, I'll have someone who, wants to buy a helmet or, add a couple of accessories. But for the most part, I would say 80% of those people walk out without wanting anything else except for their bicycle, and which for me is fine. It's
you get paid, and you get what? How do you get paid on that? The margin of the bike?
Yeah, not a full margin, not the margin that I would make as if I were selling the bike, but basically I get paid for building it. Maybe a little.
I was going to say you have to build it, so it comes in the box. You pretty much assemble the thing, get it ready.
I make a little bit of labor.
Come in.
Yeah, and then hopefully make a customer, right? In theory, that person's going to come back to get their tune-ups and stuff. Although
that's kind of the model, right?
Yeah, that's kind of that's a model. That's right. One of them. So, and right now, that's kind of what I'm working with them. And I think that's for me as of right now. It's still it's working. But we'll see. We'll see what the next 2 or 3 years. Let's see if it's worth it at the end of the day to do that, some of that. I'm not selling like really expensive. No one's buying a Super 6 online. So it's not
right,
like nobody's buying that bike where I'm making a $1,000 or something on a bike purchase. Most of the stuff that's being purchased online tends to be $1,000 or less, and
right.
So not a ton of dough, but maybe make a customer, which is the only reason I used to sell those bikes in the first place, was to just help someone out and hopefully make a customer. And now I don't even have to do that. So I don't have to stock them. I don't have to buy them, I think for places like us, for someone like me, it's that right now is a good model. So
good.
Yeah.
Now, switching gears, I know you had a few departures from the shop, including one of your finest rising star mechanics.
Oh yeah, little Isa.
who I didn't get to see off, sadly, but I hope she's doing great in her new home of Alaska.
Yeah, she's out at the University of Alaska in Fairbanks, and
nice.
Yeah, it was great. Her parents still come through the shop quite a bit. They're actually very active bike riders. They tour. They actually do some pretty intense touring, camping, and and so they ride bikes quite often on the weekends, and they'll stop by and say hello. And the last time they were in the shop, they told me that that when she got to campus and she discovered that there was a campus bicycle shop, and she made her way in there, and just made it known that she'd like to hang out and maybe even work there if she could. And they kind of looked at her because she's petite, she's not a big strapping gal. She's she looks
compact.
She looks a little younger than her age, and
she does.
And so they kind of looked her up and down and said, well, maybe you got to come back when when the boss is around, when there was a person that I guess kind of interviews the budding mechanics or people interested in working at the shop there. And she went back and he put her through her paces there, kind of asked her a bunch of questions and made her do some things and spend the day at the shop. And by the end of the day, he was handing her a key to the shop and saying, well, it looks
like amazing.
You can help run this place. So yeah, very
wow, man, that speaks to your mentorship of her as well at your shop. But she's very talented, right? I mean, she's super smart as well.
Yeah, she can do anything she wants.
And she's a worker. Like she's not one to sit in BS and do half-ass work. Like she's a worker.
No, she was my boss at the bike shop. I mean, it ran much more efficiently when she was there. To be honest with you, I mean, she really took she took to the business. She was super interested and gung ho, and I've met people like that. I've met those rising stars in the bike industry before. Those people that they're off to do bigger and better things. Unfortunately, we can't and probably shouldn't hold those people back.
Right.
Because
right. No, for sure.
Yeah. They're super bright and they can do anything mechanically and.
Well, she was going to study glaciers, basically, right?
Glaciology. Yeah, she wants
glaciology. I love that word, glaciology.
Yeah. Glaciology.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And she just does bikes on the side. That's really cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's got a gig there at the bike shop, and I haven't heard from her in the last month or so, but it's everything that she loves: the cold, bicycles, being really far away from her parents. It's a teenager's dream.
But still in the same country.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
I was going to say, yeah, kind of. It's almost like Canada, Russia, depending on your point of view.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's good. And then, yeah, I mean, and then just a natural slowdown. Some people return to their gigs. Their weekly gigs. I have another Isa working at the bike shop, and she's a teacher's assistant. So like during the week she's gone. Nice. She's only around on the weekends, and so yeah, just kind of getting into that fall pace at the bike shop. So
that's amazing. The cool thing, because I know both of them, and they're both wonderful. You've been lucky to get like just really good people, in that shop working with you. And, even if they go beyond and do other great things, like it's like, I always feel like, they're people you can reach out to. They can come back and say hi and it'll be all good. And, they're not just like come in and, transient, like come in and leave kind of. Because there are a lot of people like that in a lot of jobs, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, they're friends. I mean, at the end,
they're just there for the paycheck, and they're just like, I'm out of here.
That's what makes it so hard to hire people, Danny, is that I only hire people I like. I have to work with them, and they got to hang. It's tight quarters, and it is tight
quarters.
So
it's a small shop.
To hire someone just because they can adjust a derailleur is never a good thing. I have to kind of like them, and I always said I'd rather hire good people that are trainable than people that know it all and I can't stand. In some cases,
100%.
In some cases you have to kind of make a deal with the devil. And I have, at times, but, but, for the most part, I've been pretty lucky to work with people that I like. So it's, it's always good. It's better anyway, because, otherwise life is horrible. And
yes, it is, but it is tight quarters there. So I could totally get what you mean.
Yeah.
And then what you guys you have any plans for the fall for the shop, or what's going on between now and let's say the holidays?
Well, right now I'm deep into, and it's just kind of business stuff, right? I'm getting a new phone system put in. And that has a lot to do with, I think that all the stuff that I'm doing this fall has to do with what's happened in the last 3 years in the bicycle industry. And that's our way of communicating with customers, the way that we speak to customers now is very different than it was even 3 years ago. Phoning people and letting them know their repair is done, or consulting them, asking them if they want a new chain put on their bike or brake pads. Back in the, 3-4 years ago, you didn't think twice about it. And these days, people don't want a phone call. They want a text, and, it's different. Our way of doing business is very different. The last 3 years is really accelerated all of that. And so our POS system has to have that kind of integration. You need that in your point of sales hardware, your scheduling hardware. You need all this automation now. And 4 years ago, people were still writing down repairs on paper. People were still walking into a bike shop and you're getting a ticket handed to you, like you're going to the cleaners. And now we're more like the Apple. We got to get more like the Apple store. Would you like your receipt emailed to you or texted to you? And
fancy,
and dealing with people's repairs, and people don't even pick up their phones anymore. So it's trying to get a repair done in the middle of the day can be difficult, because back in the day people would pick up their phones and they'd say, yes, go ahead, put a new cassette and brake pads on my bike. These days they don't answer the phone, so now you're kind of stuck. It's do I do this repair? Do I not? So I got to park it, until I hear back from them, and
interrupts the flow. It's not very efficient, is it?
It's not efficient at all, and it's something you didn't think about 3 years ago. And I think that's one of the things. And our phone systems are the same way, just our telephone systems, and that's one of those things that I think the a guy like our old boss Mark at Cycle Smithy saw coming. Those guys have reinvented themselves 3 or 4 times during the time that they were in the bicycle business, and they probably they're smart enough to see what was coming and realize that they didn't feel like doing all of this anymore, because it's a real pain in the butt. Change all your systems over. This new way of communicating with people, and even something as simple as tire sizes in the last 4 or 5 years. Now there are there are probably, in the last 10 years, there are now 7 or 8, 9 tire widths and diameters that didn't exist. That didn't exist before, fat bikes, plus size.
That's insane.
Yeah. So, just something as silly as the racks that hold your bicycles in the bike shop have to get replaced, because, bikes were designed to hold tires that were no wider than 2.2 inches, on a heavy duty mountain bike back in the day. And now you're dealing with fat bikes and plus size and 29 plus. And, so that kind of stuff can be really frustrating if you're having to, do all this stuff at the same time, it was something that occurred to me, recently, as I'm going through this kind of transition and having to redo all of these things. I'm like, yeah, we are having to change a lot of things in the bike world, and I can see why those guys don't want to deal with this stuff.
Right? It's easier to just be like, nope,
I'm done. I'm 70 years old. I'm 68. I don't have time for any of this stuff anymore. I'm ready to retire. Because otherwise you're tearing. This is something that I'm doing this week. I'm going to have to go and tear everything out of my, tear all this wiring out of my bike shop. I got to repaint. I have to do all sorts of, I have a lot of, mini construction projects coming up. So
you have a honey-do list for yourself.
Yeah, I do. I'm excited about it. It's an exciting thing because it has been kind of frustrating and inefficient the last year and a half. But I knew that all this stuff had to be done, and it all has to do at the same. It all had to happen at the same time. So I've been gearing up for it mentally and financially because it's an investment. So
a lot of changes going on, Joe.
It is, yeah, there are, but I feel good about it because if you're not changing right now, if you're in the bike industry right now and you're not doing something very different from the way you were doing it the last, 3 or 4 years ago, you're in trouble. You're in big trouble. And there are a lot of shops. I hear from vendors. I hear from the people that I'm talking to, like these POS companies and these rack companies and, even insurance guys where, they're like, whoa, that's a good thing that you're doing that because there's a lot of people that aren't, and they're the writing's on the wall for those bike shops. And so at least I don't know that the changes are right. I don't know that I'm doing the right thing, but at least I'm acting on what I think is what I think has to be done. And apparently there are a lot of shops that are just kind of not. And I know the type. I've worked at places like, I know people like that. I know people like that in the industry where they're just like, they're just going to try and wing it, and keep doing it this way. And it's, they might stick around for a little while, but we've all seen those shops grow old. There are those shops still around there where you're just like, how have they managed to stick around for the last 10 years? They got the same bike in the window, and they don't do, time just kind of passes those guys by.
You're not kidding, because it's funny. Like, I've been in these shops. I'm sure a lot of us have, but you know it like instantly. You know it as like you're literally walking through the door, like across the threshold. Like you just get this, it's almost like the musty smell. Things just feel like they haven't been cleaned in a while. I'm not even talking about like gross and dirty, just like there's kind of like an ancient film over everything.
Yeah. They got Avocet shoes, like six pairs of Avocet shoes, and like just some tires, some crusty old tires, that you haven't been using in a while.
And it's just like, but even like the countertops and just like everything, it has like kind of a musty smell, and it's like an old house. If you go to like estate sales or something, sometimes you smell that. And there's something romantic. There's a romantic in me that sometimes likes that. It's like a bric-a-brac shop. You go into these old like shops in Europe and you find like super cool little things. But I know what you mean. I've been in there, and you almost feel like I guess I can only speak for myself, but I almost feel like kind of douchey asking for like certain things. Like, I'm going to ask for this like fancy lube for like my hubs. Like, that's ridiculous. Why would I ask these people that? They don't even have like Tri-Flow, like basic lube. Or, you know what I mean? I almost feel kind of like, okay, I'm here now. What do I do? Hey, do you sell inner tubes? I don't know. It's just weird. But I've been in those shops, and like I said, I don't want to berate them. I'm just saying it's kind of sad, and you get that vibe too. And sometimes they don't even have like anything interesting to look at. Like, I feel, I know it's easier said than done, but at least have like some cool posters, or have like, I don't know, have something cool, have like a fun bike or just something. Like, sometimes you go and there's like nothing, and you got like nothing, and I feel like I'm in an episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm. I'm like, okay, so thank you.
There's a place,
and you kind of walk backward out the door.
Yeah. There's a place like that locally, where it's just like, it's a, he's been there forever. And, he owns the building, and I don't know how many, he works on some of the kids' bikes in the neighborhood and does some flat tires. And, the carpet is 30 years old. He's got carpet in the shop. It's just one of those places. And I there's part of me that admires him for being in the bicycle business for such a long time, because it's a difficult racket. But, I know that like for the last 10 years, he owns the building. Maybe he makes enough money to cover his taxes and, gives them a place to go hang out and drink coffee. And, the bike reps still come by and see him, and they got an old television in there, and they watch a little TV, and they got pizza night. It's like it's quaint that way. But as a business, it probably hasn't been a real functioning business in the last 10 years. It's really just been kind of this place for this guy to go park it every day and kind of, I don't know what he does, whatever he, I don't know.
It's almost like a man cave, but it's his business.
But it's his business. There's still an open and closed side. He still goes there every day. He's still, and that's a feeling I get from talking to some of these vendors that, there are just a lot of, there's, like you said, there's always one of those shops. There's always a handful of those shops around. You always wonder how that happens. And I'm watching it in real life right now. And I'm telling you, and it's like, okay, this is the moment where you can, you either make these changes or you become one of those places. You slowly become one of those places where, it's just the coffee's on and the guys come over and hang out, and it's it's
a lot.
Yeah, it's tough to stay, to be relevant right now. You got to be computer savvy, like like you've got an app on your phone to adjust your derailleurs. It's like,
yeah, baby.
It's such it's a crazy world out there when it comes to these high end bikes. It's like.
Do you want to hear a funny story?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry to interrupt, but when I have my local bike shop called Boulevard Bikes. Boulevard Bikes in Chicago on Milwaukee,
mm-hmm.
and in the Logan Square area. And it's such a good shop. I like those guys a lot. They do a lot of good work for me. But it's funny you said that, because I was in there one day and I was having just a little bit of an issue with my bike, and the mechanic put the bike in the stand. And he goes, "Oh, do you have the app for the access system on your phone?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Oh, can you open it?" So together, we were adjusting the derailleur and get the chain nice and quiet. It was a little raspy, and he was doing a couple adjustments with the limit screws, and then we kind of got the micro adjust going. And he's like, "All right, tap it over one, tap it back, and move it over that way."
Yeah.
It was like it was kind of a fun little collab, but. Yeah, can you imagine? That's like it felt very state of the art. There I am with the app. And
yeah,
he's like spinning the wheel, and it was kind of funny when you said that. I remembered that. That was just like a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, it's a whole different world out there. It's just, it really is. It's, and I'm kind of caught in the middle. I've been around with all these old guys. And if I want to move forward and continue to work on the cool stuff, I'm having to dig deep into, the Shimano catalog, the SRAM catalog, and read the manuals and download the info and rework my workstations, put computers at the workstation. So now, there are all of this stuff requires walking to a computer and opening a PDF. You don't even get instructions in some of these boxes anymore. You get a QR code, you get a website, some web address. You don't get instructions anymore. So it's almost, if you are going to do business these days as a bicycle shop, and you want to work on this, some of this fancier equipment, the higher end bikes, and the more profitable bikes for a small shop, which we kind of need to work on some of this stuff. You have to make it efficient. You have to build a shop where you can do that kind of work. Because you can't be, it's impossible to work on some of this new stuff without being set up, so.
It's funny you said that too, because just personally, I don't know if I told you this, but you might laugh, but I've been trying to do more of my own repairs and service. And so I've always done like a lot of the basics myself, like no real issues. And if I ever just like mess it up or do something, I can go to the bike shop. But I've been trying to do like more ambitious kind of projects, at least for me. So I've been investing in like a few tools. I bought that big like ratchet torque wrench from like Park, so I can
nice.
I can dial in all my my torque on my cassettes and just like the higher torque stuff. Like I want to kind of like learn how to work on some of that more. But my point was, so it's funny you mentioned that because I went to SRAM and I was basically, what was I doing? Oh, you know what I did? I had on my cross bike. So I got this new cross bike. I've been racing cyclocross, and the bikes get so destroyed. Like we just beat the hell out of them on those courses. Like you're just jamming the bike into like logs and barriers, immovable things.
Yeah.
And you're just like banging the bike, and then the conditions are crazy. So it's like mud, and the grass is actually the worst. I'd rather have the mud than the grass. The grass can get like so crazy. So sure enough, I got all this like grass in my derailleur, which is pretty par for the course. But I thought I had cleaned a lot of it, but then I went like really close, and there was like almost like wire. I to this day I don't even know what it was. It almost looked like wire, and it was like a really thin wire. I thought it was kind of like buried under the grass, but basically it was wrapped around my jockey wheels, my pulley wheels. And so then I'm on like YouTube. I'm like, all right, I got to clean these. I want to take them off. So I ripped off the jockey wheels, cleaned them, lubed them up, put them back on, and now they're great. But at first I was like, oh, I didn't realize there were two different jockey wheels. And I didn't realize they had to go a certain way because I took them off. And I'm like, oh, I'll just throw them back on. I'm like, oh, then I realized, okay, they're not exactly the same. So I'm learning it. But what I had to do is I had to go to the SRAM site, and then I found, I don't even know if it's a PDF. It's literally like a website, and it's like an interactive one almost. Like you can click through it. It's the manual, basically. I'm sure you've been to it a million times, but it goes through and it has all the blow ups, of like the different parts and like the steps to do stuff. I actually found it like super helpful, and it solved my issue like immediately. And I'm like, oh, we just got to do that. Like I'm so dumb. So I was like looking at the pulley wheels, and the one says L, which at the time I thought meant left. So I'm like, why does the other one say U? And then I'm like, oh, it's lower and upper. So duh. So it's just like basic stuff that I don't know. So I figured that out, and I was able to like get my stuff on. So I felt like a little pat on the back. I'm like, okay, I was able to do that. But to your point, I went to the site and I bookmarked it. So it explains like all of those things. But your point's well taken. It's kind of nice because you assume that they can update that easily, and you can have that manual there for you. But it's obviously pretty technical by nature.
Yeah, you need that manual to work on almost anything. These on a lot of this. A lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to go I run to the computer on a daily basis,
I was going
to say, season to go work on something, to find a torque spec, to, figure out what kind of Loctite to lock in a bearing with, and it takes up a lot of time, and you have to know how to go.
Does.
It takes up a lot of time. You have to go, I've spent a long time in bike shops. So I know how to go and look for this info, and you have to comb through a lot of stuff. You have to read a lot of things, understand these things, so you need mechanical knowledge. You need kind of, some some computer skills. I mean, it's a lot to ask of, let's say, a mechanic like Earl, somebody in his late 60s to try and do, and that's the problem, is that we don't have a lot of young, computer skilled, mechanically inclined experience, in people with experience. It's like you're asking for a lot. You know what I mean?
And obviously, just to survive, they got to be efficient at that.
Yeah.
Like you can't just sit there for an hour and be like, how do I put this pulley wheel back on? Like I have that luxury because that's like me late in the evening, like just hanging out.
Yeah.
But like, and then you have to be able to do it for Shimano, and you have to do it for this, and you have to do it for that. And then like all the different versions that came before and will come after. And that sounds really, I actually thought about that when I was working on my bike. I'm like, okay, I got this done, but it took me an hour to do this, which is pathetic. But I'm like, I got it done. I'm like, that's cool. But then I'm like, wait a minute, like if I were in a bike shop, I'd be totally fired.
Well, I mean, that's what it is. It's like, okay, so I have to give the kids time, well, I'm having to do it. So, that's the thing, is that I'm that person in the shop that I have to go and research all of this stuff and teach the other people how to do it, or, teach the other mechanic how to do it. Otherwise, there's nobody else to do that stuff right now in the shop, So when I say like we had a mechanic leave, that was someone who was competent enough to go and find that information and had the mechanical skills and had a lot of years of experience doing those things. And I didn't have to tell them how to do all of that, I had to step in and take his spot. But the problem right now in the industry is that there aren't a lot of young people doing this. There isn't there aren't a lot of hotshot 35-year-old mechanics or 30-year-old mechanics out there. You have a lot of gung-ho kids in their 20s, but they don't have experience doing this kind of stuff, and they might be gung-ho, but it's going to be another 10 years till they're seasoned and understand this stuff, and that's if they stay in the business.
Yeah, and if you are one of those people, please contact us. Get in touch.
Yeah. Send us an email. You want to move to Chicago? Let me know. So.
Yeah, it's true. So I've got this little project. It's a long-term thing, but I'm trying to like build up just like a good like home little shop,
tool
so
set.
To speak.
Yeah, that's good, man.
I'm just some tools. I'm not going crazy. I don't need every tool, but I'm just trying to be like pick my battles, and like I want to be able to work on my bike.
Yeah,
I want to be able to pretty much do anything I need to with my bike.
Mm-hmm.
For me, bottom brackets are like the last frontier. Like I'll get to those eventually someday.
Yeah.
I'm afraid to almost like mess with those because I don't want to. These bikes are so nice, but I'm just trying to like. I can do a lot of stuff, but and especially now with like SRAM, like there's no cables, there's no wires, like a lot of it's pretty straightforward, but nonetheless, there's just a handful of things that I would like to be able to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to run to the shop. It's not that I don't want to support them, but like I don't want to run to the shop on a Saturday night when they're closed, obviously, and be like, oh, I need this for my race tomorrow. It's like, how do I change this cassette?
No, you should know how to do it.
I want to be able to do it competent. I should be able to, and I just never really had to because like I just never needed it. But now it's like with my cross bike, I have an extra set of wheels. I have alternative wheels. So I have wheels that are tubulars and they're mud tires. So I'm just only going to ride those when it's muddy out. Otherwise, I'll wear them out.
Mm-hmm.
And they're tubulars, so you don't want to ride them around too much because if they flat, you're SOL. Basically, but yeah, so I didn't want to buy a new cassette. Although since then I've actually ordered a new cassette because I realized this was kind of a pain in the ass switching the cassette.
Yeah,
but the cassette goes with the chain, right? So it was just like all these things I was kind of learning as I was doing it. But I'm happy with it, and eventually I want to build like a little. Not a stand. I have a stand, but I want to build like a little workstation and just be able to have all my stuff. I already have kind of a lot of it.
Yeah.
But like I just need to consolidate. I have like all this stuff in my closet. This is totally not interesting information, but I have all this stuff in my closet and I have to like pull it out. And like every time I work on something and it's like, I want to like a nice little stand. So that's my little winter kind of project.
Oh, there you go. That's a novel thing to do, and to have a little workshop. And the nice thing about having like two very specific bikes to work on is that you don't need like a million different tools. You need the tools to work on those bikes, which is nice. Some Allen wrenches.
I was going to say Allen wrenches. Allen keys do so much of the work.
Yeah,
I like having the torque wrench.
Yep. I think that's just nice. That for you is very important, and like around a bike shop with novice people, torque wrenches these days are essential. And it's actually kind of in a way, like back in the day, people might have poo-pooed the torque wrench, but it takes the guesswork out of certain things. Like certain things you don't need guesswork or art or a feel. Oh, there's a lot of old time mechanics that are like, I just got a feel for it. It's like, well, do you really have a feel for it, or you're overdoing it? So
because this is a super lightweight, high end carbon piece that goes in the headset. If that thing fails, we're SOL.
Yeah, no, I got the torque wrench built into my wrist. It's like,
it's funny. I do appreciate that in some regard, but I know what you mean. It's not something I'm going to probably rely on as a business. It's probably not a great business practice.
Yeah, I mean these days, there are certain things where a lot of the guesswork has been eliminated. Where if you can just teach people how to use the tool and they do follow the instructions, they can get a job done. And I've been like purposely. With some of these young people at the shop, I'm like, well, you're installing a new SRAM drivetrain. Follow the instructions. I'm here, and I'll call a timeout if I see you doing something that's gonna ruin it or break it. But otherwise, follow the instructions. Do exactly what they tell you. That's what I would do. You do it.
I think that's great, actually.
Yeah, you've got the benefit of having the tools and a lot of people around who are gonna like stop you before you ruin your bicycle. But in the meantime, if we don't, if we see something that you're doing terribly wrong, we're going to stop you. Otherwise, just keep going. Just do what you got to do, And
I think that's amazing, actually. And I will say too, like, having YouTube is pretty amazing too.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of high quality. There's a lot of crap out there and stuff I would not trust. But you go to like the Park Tool channel, and there are others, but like the Park Tool one I go to a lot, like. They do such a good job explaining stuff. Sometimes they go into like interesting little directions with some like older equipment and stuff, which is interesting, like old headsets and like bottom brackets and all this kind of stuff. But a lot of times they'll have the stuff that I have and I'll just be like, I'll follow it. I'm like, wow, I did that. And did I do it perfectly? Maybe not, but and sometimes I will ride over to the bike shop and be like, hey guys, can you just double check my handiwork? And they're always like super cool because I give them enough business anyway.
Yeah.
So they're always just like, oh yeah, this looks good. Like this looks great. And I'm like, oh, thanks. Like, cool. I got it done. But YouTube, I have to say, is like, it's kind of a game changer. And obviously it's been a game changer for a lot of things. Like I know people who work on their houses and they go to YouTube, like, how do I do this? And cars and you name it. But for bikes, it's been pretty good.
Yeah, every bike shop in America. Resorts goes to YouTube at some point for something.
Is that a dirty little secret? I never knew that.
Yeah, I don't know that it's even a secret. Someone like SRAM, back in the day, like all their videos, all their instructional videos are on YouTube. They just.
I've seen them.
Yeah. You just go over to, you go over and watch a video on how to bleed something, and it helps to have experience and know what they're talking about. Yep. I mean, for someone who's never done it before, it can still be, it'd be tricky.
Especially proprietary stuff, like especially with the carbon stuff and the aero profile stuff, like some of the wheels and the frames. But you were saying,
even like building some of these newer, like Cannondale, like your bike. I think when we were building your bike, we watched a video of some guy, in Europe stringing one of those up, and sometimes it just helps to watch someone do it. Even if you know the instruction, you kind of have a good idea, but just to watch someone go through the process, it doesn't hurt, and a lot of times it helps, like there's little things that I pick up watching that. There's always little things to learn, and I think there's always, bike shops have always lived in kind of a siloed, you just, my way, it's my way, everybody thinks they have the secret sauce at every bike shop, in reality, there's a lot of stuff out there, a lot of different ways of doing things. So.
Oh, for sure.
I've seen some really cool stuff, And some of that stuff comes out of like weird little bike shops in like Mexico City or in the middle of Chile, where they don't have a lot of tools to work with and they've just had to invent something, or they've
cool.
Built some sort of workaround and you're just like, wow, man, that's a novel use of a hanger,
Yeah. That's cool that you're able to watch the Spanish language ones too. I suppose I could too, and just put on the subtitles or the captions.
Yeah,
but a lot of it's visual too.
Yeah.
But it's funny that one video reference though. I remember I pulled it up. It was kind of like one of those bike porn videos. Like it had the music and the lighting. And he was building this bike
all by himself.
It was so erotic, basically.
There's a lot of stuff like that.
Check out this bike. But those guys build those bikes probably multiple times a day. Like they know all those high end aero bikes with like the internal housing and
I mean if I were doing
you see
one
them
of those,
doing it, I'm kind of like, that's pretty much a good way to do it.
Well, if I was doing one of those videos, I would build it first, and so I know how to do it, and then I take it all apart, and then I'd film it,
course.
Doing it all the right way, real clean,
right.
So I mean that's I mean those bikes are just from having hung around bike shops for a while and watching people do it and me going through that process. It's like watching sausage get made, Danny. It's like one of those things. Sometimes you don't want to see it. You just want the
just
pretty bike.
Much more expensive. Yes.
Yeah. Cut out all the cursing and all the blood. Yeah.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. So I got the Super 6 Evo 1. I love it. It's a fantastic bike. I only have a couple thousand miles on it, but oh my God, it's just such a, people always ask like, what's the difference between like a $2,000 bike and a $600 bike? I'm like, well, if you rode one, you would know. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying everyone needs that like $2,000-$3,000 bike or $6,000 bike, but man, once you ride it, you're like, okay,
yeah,
you just that road feel, that balance, the snappiness, the control, like, oh, it's just so smooth, and it's a fantastic bike. I will say, it is amazing when you put on like fatter tires, how that much nicer it even gets.
It's comfy, doesn't it? It gets super comfortable.
That is a game changer, and it can still be fast, and you just have that much more comfort, like traction, handling. Yeah. Anyway, loving it. And then since then, Joe, I sold my Domane.
Yeah. How did that go? I didn't talk to you while I saw you post it. How did you end up selling that bike?
So I was just going to give you a quick little catch up. So I had the Czech Domane for like a year and a half, and in some ways a really great bike. I had a couple interesting issues with it, but overall it lived up to a lot of its hype. It was considered by quite a few people, including the folks at Bicycling and some other big sites, to be Trek's best ever road bike, at least up until that point. So it is actually a really, really nice bike. But to answer your question, so I was ready to move on. The bike was admittedly a little heavy, and I wanted something a little bit kind of snappier. It's more of like an all-road kind of bike, all-day bike, and it's great for that. It's maybe one of the best bikes for that. But I was able to move it pretty quickly on Facebook Marketplace, and I think you had suggested that, and I'd seen some other folks suggesting it. So I hadn't used Facebook in a while. I got off Facebook some years ago, so I had to re-up a profile, but I kept it really stealth. Like, I have 0 friends. I'm like not following anything. I literally just got it so that and it's a new kind of unique profile. I didn't use my old stuff. So anyway, so I got that so I could use the Marketplace and Messenger and stuff. So I was able to take some nice pics, write up a nice description, and clean it up real nice. And I moved it inside a week without really trying. Yeah,
locally?
Without really trying. I had a bunch.
You sell it locally?
Locally? Yeah, I sold it locally. Wow. Yep. I met the guy. He was a younger guy, maybe like late 20s, early 30s. Showed up with his girlfriend, and we met over at the police station. It's where I do all my deals.
Oh, nice. Classic.
Yeah, it's nice and safe. And so met him over there, and we did a nice cash transaction. And he was really stoked, and
cool.
He was really excited about the bike. And I just gave him the lowdown on everything, and he was really excited, and he followed up. He's like, man, I love this bike. This is really great.
Fantastic.
And so that was really cool. So I moved on from that. And then I also had that, I don't know if I told you, I had that single speed. So the Miami Vice windbreaker, from State Bicycles. I had that. So I moved that as well. I just wasn't riding it. Okay. And to be honest, I just realized I never really owned a single speed, let alone a fixed gear.
Yeah.
And I was just kind of like, you know what? These are they're a little rough on the knees.
The reason they invented gears and freewheels. Yeah.
Well said.
Yeah.
So many starts and stops. It was the funnest bike. It was really, really fun. I enjoyed the hell out of it. It was super cute and just fun to bounce around, and it was pretty light and just a great bike, but especially for the money, a high value kind of bike. But all the stopping and starting from a dead stop and like a pretty heavy gear, I'm like, this, remember that time I rode it out to you? I did like a 40-mile trip when I got it. I was all excited one day and I rode it, and it was great. But honestly, I felt it in the knees. Like my knees weren't like gone, but like I could feel some strain, and I'm like, this isn't going to be good for my cycling or for me personally. So, and I wasn't really riding it. So anyway, I sold that as well on Marketplace very quickly. So Marketplace has been really good. Cool. And the only other thing to add there is, so I got a new bike for cyclocross since I decided to take up cross racing this fall. So I got the Specialized Crux Expert.
Nice.
Which is a really, really fun bike. It's people have talked about this, and we've talked about it too, but it's one of those bikes where, it kind of has like a history in cyclocross when like Stibar and all these guys were racing, I think, racing cross full time. But then it kind of became like a gravel bike. So I think now it's kind of it's like a little bit of both. So if you go to the Specialized site, I think they have it under their cyclocross tab and also their gravel tab, and it's billed as the lightest gravel bike, whatever. But I'm racing it for cross, and it's great. It's everything I need in a bike for cyclocross for myself. So so that's where I'm at. So I'm down to 2 bikes again. I had like 3 or 4 going on, but I'm back to 2, and I have the Super 6 Evo sitting next to me right now. That's set up on my Zwift tub for my indoor rides, because I'm not going to probably ride it much in the winter since I have the cross bike.
Okay.
So I'll be doing the cross bike till the holidays, and then in the new year, I don't know. I might go back and forth between the 2 bikes. I know this sounds really like first world problem, but I might go. I'm not sure if I'm going to switch bikes. Like I'll ride the road and then the gravel bike. Or if I'll kind of dedicate myself more to one and then just keep the kind of cross bike for the cross season. I'm not sure yet. We'll figure that out later, but I'm in a good position right now with bikes, and I'm pretty stoked. So
no, that's good, man. And yeah, I'm looking forward to indoor cycling season myself. Like, just we're getting reestablished with all my Zwift friends, and I don't know that I have any Zwift friends, to be honest with you. I don't like participate a lot on there, but just riding in the virtual world, and I coming off of the old school rollers and indoor trainers, like Zwift for me is like it is like a video game. It just kind of get on there and pedal, and it's enough of a distraction that an hour-long workout goes pretty fast, and I find it to be super efficient for me, and it's enough to hold me over. It's like, and sometimes I'll find myself on there for an hour and a half or 2 hours if I'm just kind of having a good time, or I don't have anything to do, or my wife is out of town and I got nothing better to do. Right. Just jump on there. So it's been that indoor stuff has been a real game changer for me, and especially this year, I found that once the spring came along, I was able to jump outside and go riding and not skip a beat. It was fun. It was good.
So felt pretty good, like some good level of fitness.
Yeah, good enough to go out and ride 30, 40 miles and not feel it, not hurt. Nice. And be in better shape than the people that I'm riding with, for sure, and that's all I really want. I just want to be better than the guy riding next to me. So
funny. It's funny we're talking about it, because actually this afternoon I did my first Zwift hub ride, and it's probably my second only ever.
Okay.
Because I bought this Zwift tub, I set it up, I did one ride, and I haven't touched it because I think I told you I'm a big like outdoor rider. I like to ride in even funky weather. So it's going to take a lot for me to get on the trainer. Yeah. I think the trainers are amazing these days. I think Zwift is great if that's your thing. There's all kinds of there's other versions of Zwift, and there's just so much now. You can hack it. You can go online and see other people's hacks. They have these amazing setups, and they do like really, really cool stuff. For me personally, I'm still kind of old school. Like today I did a Zwift ride. I had an interval workout to do.
Okay.
Sorry, not a Zwift ride. I did my Zwift hub ride, but I don't use it on Zwift. I have it connected through my Garmin, so it shows me like all the data.
Okay.
Like it does power, distance, speed, everything. So it records it as like a regular ride, if you will.
Gotcha.
But all I do is I set up my laptop, and today I watched the cyclocross race. Okay. So I watched one of the pro races, a really good one actually from last year, and I just watched that I hit it. Cyclocross races are always 1 hour for the men, so it's like perfect. I just hit play. And then I got my workout in my phone on my computer, and I just do that, and I'm watching that. And then I'll have some music on in the background too. So I got plenty of distractions. I got 2 fans going, and I can hammer out my workout, and I got the window open,
that's cool.
in the office here. So you got to make it work for you, for sure. I definitely do cut the workouts a little short, because normally they'd be a little longer. Like I do a little more of a ramp up and a cool down. But that's because I'm outside and riding out to the workout spot, whether it's the lakefront or up north or something. But so they're a little shorter, but I just go on to get the main meat and potatoes done, the hardcore intervals. But what's your kind of I'm curious, what's your typical kind of indoor ride these days? Like, do you tend to do the same types of rides over and over? Do you vary them up? What do you do?
Sometimes I'll jump in some of those group rides. It's just enough, like you pick one of those wattage. It's like, based on the watts, And so those little groups are there are different groups, and sometimes it's just enough to push myself a little harder, depending on how fit I am. I'll jump into one of those, or sometimes I just do a free ride, just kind of get out there and just pedal. Sometimes I don't feel like dealing with it, and I'll just kind of shrink the window, and I'll do kind of like you and put a video up, watch some videos. And here's a cool story. So like when I first got on Zwift, the first winter I got on Zwift, I found a guy on YouTube who was riding around Alicante, in the region of Alicante. My wife lives there, and that's where I was at. I was there in September, hanging out, and
you just froze there for a second.
Oh, I was saying that back in,
you said Alicante.
Yeah, I was in back when I first got on Zwift, I found a guy on YouTube that I was kind of started watching his channel, and he was based in Alicante, and he had great videos of him just riding around the region. And it was great to see, because it was kind of like a preview of what I could possibly do when I'm out there.
Is he the guy you showed me? He was like up in the mountains and stuff with some buddies, like little group rides.
Yeah.
Like beautiful vistas. He's that guy, right? Like a middle-aged kind of guy, maybe?
Yeah, he's our age.
Yeah.
He's our age.
Yeah.
He's riding out there, and it really motivated me to like get in shape and, want to go out there and, like just to get in shape, period.
Nice,
because
man. That's great.
Seeing some of those rides. And, last year, when Rita was there, I reached out to him. I'm like, "Hey, man, I'm a big fan. You really motivated me to start riding again, and I love watching your videos." And I sent some water bottles and stuff his way through Rita.
Nice.
And I said, I sent some stuff out with my wife. If if you're in the area, get in touch with her. And he did. And in subsequent videos, you see the bike shop's water bottle appear.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, he's worked some of those into his video. So now it's even just added motivation to keep riding.
That's great.
Yeah, he has a little bit of a following there in Spain, and
nice.
It's fun. It's fun to have that connection with him. And he rides those roads. So Alicante, just north of Alicante, is Calpe and Benidorm and all these places that you hear about, because all the pros train there during the winter. And
yeah, of course.
Preseason training camps and all the rest. So
sweet.
If it's exciting to see it and talk about it, it's because that's really where the bulk of the European pros go and hang out during the winter. There's a ton of them spend time there or do training camps there. And now coming up in December, it's not unusual to see them all over the roads there. And then come January, the preseason camps are all taking place there. So the roads are just littered with pro cyclists around there, and also club teams from all over Europe will go there. They'll do an Airbnb with like some Dutch team will be there, and some English team will be there. So it's a real magnet for cyclists in that area.
I love, I've seen a lot of that as well online vicariously, but it must be cool to be on the ground and check it out. I know you said you've seen like Jacuna guys like riding by in the street and stuff. And I know like if you look at Vanderpool's like Instagram or his Instagram and his Strava, whenever he does post, he doesn't post a lot on there because he keeps his stuff pretty low key. You know what I mean? Like his power and his training, but he does post some stuff on Strava, but a lot of Instagram, but it's always like Spain.
Yeah.
It's like I'll like click the map thing, I'm looking around, and it's always like he jumps down there for like a minute,
Yeah.
Like in between like cross races, like northern Belgium, while there he's like, fuck this, like boom, jump down, do like 5 days, come back. Like I'm just like, damn, that's so pro. I love that.
Yeah.
That's like my favorite thing.
Yeah. So I mean, all those pros know where to go. And a lot of them actually have places there, and some of them have Spanish wives, and so it's just it's an easy place for them to just head down and get some riding in good weather. The weather's very dependable in that area of Spain. So
and you Joselito, you were just there in Spain, were you not?
Yeah, I was there in September. I just, I decided to do the terrible for business to close down in September, but great for the soul.
Oh well.
Yeah. Oh well. The soul and the heart really needed it, and go over there and see some friends. Actually, I think we've talked about it on the show. I had this big project going on with a custom bicycle build, a frame that I'm building for
project.
I'm Phil. I guess I'll go as far as saying now that it's for an NBA player, for a center in the NBA, a former, a former champion NBA
we're
player.
Getting somewhere.
Yeah, we're getting there.
He's got a ring
because he's got. I think he's got a couple of them, and that bike was finally finished. We finally completed that project. That was ready, and the whole time that we've been building this. Working on this project, I always promised to head over there as soon as go pick it up myself as soon as the bike was ready. And, I thought it was, it was the right thing to do. Plus, I was ready to get out, and that went well. It was just, went over there and brought that thing back. I took a bicycle with me, when I was, when I headed over there, the last minute, I decided I wanted to see what it was like to travel with a bike these days, bike in a box. And so that was really interesting. It was a real pain in the butt, just moving around the country with a bicycle box. I didn't, realize how hard it is these days to travel with a bike. It's just kind of a lot of things to think about and logistics. And had I not spoken the language really well and knew my way around the country, I think I would have had even a lot more trouble. I might have been stuck in certain places. So, I learned a lot on the trip. Yeah.
Yeah. That's really cool. It's really exciting. So you went out, you had this big plan with this former NBA star, to build him obviously a big, large bike.
Yeah. 36-inch wheels. Yeah.
36 inches, but a handmade bike. Steel
handmade bike,
and so you got it now. You're building it up, and then you're going to deliver it sooner than later. Personally
hopefully in the next couple of weeks. Yeah, I hope to drive out, and we'll certainly chronicle that here on the show. So
I was going to say, hopefully you can get some audio from him, put it in the recorder, and get it on the show at some point.
Yeah,
it'd be cool if you
could hear him say about time.
Yeah. I got 2 words. About time.
Yeah.
It's been a while in the making, but that's really cool. I won't give too much away, but let's follow up on that. I think if you were able to get some nice pics and stuff and get a little story from him, and then hopefully we can check out his Instagram if he's got one, and we can start seeing him posting some pics. That would be kind of cool, huh?
Yeah,
see him riding his new bike day.
I hope
all
so.
That fun stuff.
I hope so.
That'd be super cool.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how into it he is, or if he just wants a bike. At this point, I'm just whatever makes him happy. I just want to get a bike to him.
So 2 things, Joe, to switch gears if we can. So we have
switch gears. I like that.
Yeah, switch gears. So we had a couple of things here.
Yeah.
You had mentioned, and I had too in our show notes. We talked about the Tour de France route being unveiled today in Paris. A big fancy ceremony where all the cyclists dress up in interesting fancy clothes.
Yeah.
There's always an interesting kind of look. Some of them. Did you see the one with Vingegaard? There's a photo of him. He's like an all black.
Oh yeah, he looked like a villain from
I was gonna say he looked like James Bond.
Yeah, he looked like some sort of villain. Some really skinny.
It looks so funny if anyone hasn't seen it. But anyway,
tech villain. Yeah.
The route, for those who care. So the tour next year, the route, they usually announce it in October, which is right now. So that was announced. It's interesting because the Olympics are in Paris, right? Summer Olympics. So they can't have the tour finish in Paris as it has done since the early 70s, I think, for a long time. So that's like a new thing that's going to happen for the route coming up in June and July. So
they're
that's
also
a new thing.
They're also starting a week. It forces them to start a week early. So it's a week earlier than usual, like the last week of June, I think is when they're starting.
Exactly. And it has started in June before, but usually like the last day or two. But this is like a full proper, I think, week before. So it's going to be an interesting kind of thing just for that reason, I think, for some folks anyway. And then it's going to finish down in Nice. And they had some stages there over the years, but it's going to finish with a time trial, I believe, from Monaco to Nice, which I think is going to be baller. I've talked on the show before how I was very fortunate enough to live there for a little while, and I think I know the exact roads they're going to be on. And it's just going to be beautiful for like the camera, to the TV and stuff. I'm always a little torn having a time trial on the final stage. Like, part of me wants like the sprint finish, but I don't mind mixing it up once in a while. I know the Giro has a penchant for having a final day time trial. They've had a few of those in recent memory. I'm cool with it. So it is what it is. They're going to have the time trial. There's also going to be gravel, Joe.
I think we predicted that here on this show many months ago.
We did.
Yeah.
Yes, we did.
You can kind of see you could kind of see that coming, for a long time. They have to. It's the equivalent of putting breakdancing in the Olympics. It's like you have to do what the kids are doing. Keep it pertinent out there. So.
Oh God! So I saw someone refer to it as the Strada Bianchi stage. It's got some gravel. I have not looked at the route in great detail, so sorry to disappoint anyone. But it's going to have a stage where there's several sections of gravel. And I think that's before a rest day. So that could actually be an interesting stage. I feel like sometimes when you have stages like this, especially when they had the cobbles, sometimes it actually delivers on the hype, but a lot of times it doesn't. Like, these stages usually aren't like, there's not much going on. Like, they're kind of over examined, by the media and whoever. And then you get to it and it's like, it was kind of a nothing burger. I think that one they had in the tour, was it that, did a few years back that
it was on a mountain climb or something, right?
Yeah, it was like on a mountain stage, and it was kind of like, they just like rode their bikes, and it was like there nothing really happened. It was just like they were just riding bikes. Like nothing crazy happened. That cobble stage they had several years back where Froome crashed out. That was actually super good. I think Lars Bohm won that stage, if I'm not mistaken, but Nibali took a bunch of time. And anyway, that turned out to be a really good stage that lived up to the hype because it rained as well. But maybe it was Tony Martin who won that stage. I can't remember suddenly, but then there's, just 2 time trials. I think it's just going to be an interesting one for all kinds of reasons. And then you have the Olympics. So how the riders are going to, work with the Olympics, because obviously a lot of them will be riding the Olympics. You have the women's Tour de France after the Olympics. So the men's will be kind of right before Olympics, I guess. And then the women's after. And I know some of the women riders, they're going to be doing the Olympics and then the Tour de France avec Zwift, Tour de France Femme avec Zwift. So anyway, that was kind of like the little news I saw. Did you have any thoughts on the route? Do you want to go out to Monaco with me, Joe, and watch the final stage, and then head down to
Spain? Yeah, that wouldn't be bad. Are you thinking about heading out there and watching a little Tour de France this year?
Honestly, I have to say, I honestly have thought about it a little bit, like a couple of times today already. Like. You don't have to twist my arm to go back to Nice and hang out around there. I'd love to go over to Spain and Alicante too, while I'm over there if I could. But I think that time trial just sounds pretty cool. Like, I'm not like a huge fan of time trials. Like, they're kind of boring in my opinion. Like, I'll watch them on TV, but I usually have in the background, and I'm usually like making eggs or something. Yeah. It's like, let me know if something interesting happens. But I'm not saying they can't be. They can be interesting, of course, and sometimes they can be very interesting. But I think usually not till
the top 3 or 4 actually go off that you care. You actually start paying attention in those stages. I mean, and that's if it's close.
And it's the final stage, right? I mean, if it's close going in, that's going to be a can't miss. You're going to definitely be watching that one. And then if there's, heaven forbid, anyone has something disastrous happen, a flat, a mechanical. I mean, that could be a Greg LeMond, Laurent Fignon stage. Again, you just never know. But I think just the backdrop would be really cool. In some ways, it's actually better than a mass start stage because you get to see each rider, and it takes so long to go through. By that point, they'll probably still have 150 guys in the race, maybe something like that. It takes all day, so you get to see a lot of the race. There's like a whole day of it. It's not easy for the folks working it, of course, but for fans, it could be kind of cool. And then they always send off the top guys last, right? So they're usually racing pretty late, kind of into the late afternoon, early evening. So then it kind of, you have the big finish of the tour, and then it's just like a big party down in Nice, I would imagine. Like that could be like a lot of fun. So anyway, I'm a little bit tempted. I'm a little bit thinking about it. If you're interested, let me know. I don't know if you can get away for like a week when in the height of summer.
Height of summer, that's a little different. That's a little difficult.
That's very tough.
The one that I was looking at was there's a cyclocross World Cup race in Benidorm over the winter. There's something happening there. I don't know exactly when that one goes off, but I think it's in January, maybe.
Vanderpool won it this year. It's known as like the race where they can go to and they'll have like pretty nice weather, relatively speaking, and it's usually like crazy fast because there's not usually mud. And this past year's one was really good. I watched it.
The weather's like, at that time of the year, it could be 70 degrees. It could be well into the 70s at that time of the year.
Yeah, they were just unusual. In like jerseys and shorts,
it's not unusual.
What a party. But related to the tour, did you have anything you wanted to say to the tour? Sorry. Did I interrupt you on any tour route stuff?
No, it's very exciting. It's exciting. They start in Italy, so they start in Italy. They're starting, they're kind of starting right from the gun with some difficult stages, and we'll see. That I think the gravel is obviously one of the big things, and just kind of like you said, the end of the race, being a little bit different. So I think they're continuing with this trend of like these hot starts. Getting more excitement, I think, at the front end of the race, getting these things started right away, as opposed to riding into them like traditionally you'd see that. It seems to be a trend in the stage races these days. Just get some fireworks going right away.
Yeah, they have an ascent of the Galibier on the opening week, which is just mind blowing. I was actually on the stage of the Galibier, the Andy Schleck one, back in the day.
That's like stage 4 or something, right? Stage 3.
Yeah,
or 4,
it's like super early. So we're not just throwing in like a Mur de Bretagne, like a nice punchy climb. Like these are actual epic. Some of the highest climbs in France, some of the highest climbs in the history of the tour. It's going to be really interesting. It's spending a ton of time kind of hanging out in the southeast of France, a million little stages there, and then it's going to go out west to Pau, and then up north as far as Orléans, Troyes, Dijon, all around there. So, but yeah, the Italian stages look cool too. They're going to Florence, Bologna, Turin. They're going to hit the Pinerolo. Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be good. A lot of climbing, a lot of sprint stages too, I think. So this segues nicely into the silly season, which I thought we could talk about just briefly. All the transfers. There've been a couple interesting ones, Joe. Every year, of course, riders transfer from team to team, but some years are more interesting than others. I think this one's very interesting. Well, the two that stand out to me, I don't know if you've been looking around, but the two that stand out to me are Cavendish. First of all, is coming back.
Yeah.
So Cav is coming back to cycling after, quote, retiring. So he failed to win that record-breaking stage in the Tour de France last year. He crashed out. Did he break his collarbone? He had that crash, which was super anticlimactic. It was very surreal. And so he's actually announced that he's coming back, and he's coming back with Astana and the team he was with last time, right? And then he's bringing his main lead-out guy, Mikhail Morkov, who's by and large the best lead-out man in cycling. So that's going to be interesting. And he's coming back. He's literally coming back for one reason. That's to win that record-breaking Tour de France stage. So that's kind of cool. Like one more year, and you kind of get the feeling like this should probably be the last year. So hopefully he gets it. I'd like to see him win it. But the other big move, Joe, I'm sure you saw, is your guy, one of your favorite riders, the former ski jumper, Roglic. So he is leaving Jumbo-Visma. I don't think anyone who really paid attention is like shocked by this, but I was a little surprised he's going to Bora Hansgrohe. I think it's a good move, actually. But I had a couple other teams in mind that he might go to. I actually thought he might go to Trek. But he's going to Bora Hansgrohe. So
yeah, it's that's one of those teams that you just don't like. Bora Hansgrohe. It's hard to get, like, I don't know. I just don't feel anything for that team. Not good or bad.
Well, it's just when Sagan was on them. When Sagan was on them, like he was the reason for their existence, in my opinion. They've had good riders on there. It's not to say they haven't, but they're guys who do like 8th in the tour. You don't really know their names, and like, I'm not saying they haven't had some standout results. They have, but they're not one of those teams that you just think of as like De Koenig. Or Jumbo-Visma, or you name it.
Like if you won a free jersey and it was a Bora Hansgrohe jersey, it would be like you're just like, you're like, man, I guess it's a nice jersey. It's Italian, but what am I?
Right.
It's like, But, yeah. I mean, it just doesn't. It doesn't. There's nothing. There's nothing. I guess now there is. So good for them. There's a reason to pay attention to them.
Yeah, Sagan going to them, or I'm sorry, Sagan being on them was like, I think for me always the main, maybe the only draw, but they've had some really good riders. Wasn't Jay Vine on there, or am I thinking of someone else? Was he on there when he won the Giro?
No, I don't know.
I thought Jay Vine was on.
See, that's how you remember them, as Sagan's former team, right? It's like, it's right. That's Sagan's former team. Yeah. They make very good. I mean, the Hansgrohe faucets and stuff are they're like, very familiar with them. Great quality, high quality. So
there you go. So anyway, I think those were the two main ones, but we got a handful of other ones. Actually, an interesting one. He's not like the winningest racer by any means, but do you know the tractor, De Klerk? Mm-hmm. He's going to Trek, which is interesting. I thought that was an interesting signing. So he's the guy, super big cyclist, like big man, and
with
he's
the
always
narrow
on the front
handlebars. Is that him with the super narrow handlebars? Yeah,
I think he has pretty narrow handlebars. Mm-hmm. And he rides on the front of the peloton, doing like 400 watts for like 4 hours. Like he's the guy who's there from like chasing down the brakes or keeping the brakes in check all day. So call him the tractor.
Has Trek signed somebody of note? Do they have? I mean, like, who's their guy? Who's the Trek guy? They have a Spanish rider on their team, right? They
have. They have Mads Pedersen, obviously. Mm-hmm. He's good for a tour stage pretty much every year. He wins. Obviously, he's former world champion. He's won some other races. They have Ciccone. He won the KOM this year in the tour. But do they have like a GC guy? No, they don't have a GC. They don't have a top 3 podium GC guy. But it's like pitchers, right? If they're not out there to buy, they're not out there, right? Like there aren't that many GC guys, period. Like you can count them on one hand, I think. But Tim de Klerk from Soudal Quickstep to Lidl Trek. Just a couple other ones real quick. Caleb Ewan. Mm-hmm. He that's an interesting one. So Roglic, we can't get into it today, but Jumbo-Visma was having a little bit of an implosion thing going on at the Vuelta. There was some craziness going on, obviously, with the tour. Clearly, Roglic isn't quite on that level of Vingegaard and Pogačar. I think it's fair to say, at least in 3-week Grand Tours these days, I'm pretty comfortable saying that. I'd like to see him prove me wrong, because I love Roglic as well. Mm-hmm. But I just don't see anyone really, putting Pogačar or Vingegaard off the top 1 or 2 steps. But who else did we have here? We just had a couple others. There are quite a few of these. Oh yeah, so Caleb is going. Let's see. Caleb Ewan is going from Lotto Destiny. He had a big drama, a lot of toxic stuff going over there. So they actually bought his contract out, and he's going to Team Jaco Alula, which is, I think a really good move for him going there. Whether he's kind of peaked and he's just maybe not going to be that crazy winning rider at Grand Tours, like sprint stages, I don't know. We'll see. But I think those are some of the main ones. I don't know if I see any other huge ones that stand out.
No, that's interesting. I know that the obvious guy that if I were Trek, you'd want to go after Sepp Kuss, right? I know he's not available, but I mean, like it's just it's like an American team with the American boy.
That would be the dream, yeah.
But I have a feeling that like Sepp Kuss likes where he's at. I mean, he seems to love that, embrace that Euro lifestyle. He's married to a Spanish girl, and he seems to really, really like it there. So I don't think he, it doesn't seem like he's very interested in, changing things.
Right. Yeah. It's. I don't know what the lowdown is there. Mm-hmm. You would think that would be a pretty obvious one. I agree. To me, that would be like a good obvious move. But, maybe he's asking too much. Maybe they don't have the budget to get someone like him. He would be like like Roglic. I think is a €6 million a year rider right now. Yeah. I could see after winning the Vuelta, I could see Kuss. Plus, he's young still. Like I could see him being like a 10 million euro rider. Maybe they just don't have the budget.
Yeah, I mean, it would probably take a whole lot to bring him over. I'm sure they tightened him up a little bit at Lotto at Jumbo after they got Roglic's money off the books and ensure that they can keep Sepp Kuss. If I was the team, I'd be like, here, we'll give you a little extra so you don't go anywhere. Because I mean, that's a guy. Right. That's a guy you don't want to lose, right? I mean, that's a guy. If you're comfortable and he's happy, I'm going to try and do everything I can to keep that guy and make him happy, and make it worthwhile for him not to go anywhere.
Right.
So
it'll be interesting. I think it's going to give obviously a lot of freedom, mm-hmm. a lot of support, dedicated support. There won't be any ambiguity like, oh, are you going to be super domestique for Jonas or whoever else? It's clear he's gonna be the leader and they're gonna go all in on the tour, I would imagine. So another fun transfer, this is one of my last ones, but Harry Sweeney. So, not like a big winning racer, but a really interesting guy. He's going from Lotto Destiny to EF Education, which I think is like super fun. Like, I think he's a perfect guy for that team. Like, he's just got like a lot of character, a lot of charisma. He's like a funny guy.
Where's Harry Sweeney from?
He is from Australia.
Okay. Well, seems fitting for EF. Like, they like those guys.
And he lives in Andorra, and he's got a really fun YouTube channel.
Oh, really?
He shows just like his life in Andorra. He shows his rides, but it's kind of cool. It's got like personality. He's got like a friend who's always riding with him who lives in Andorra with him, I think. He's really into cooking. He shows like all his cooking and stuff. I don't know. I think he's like a really cool guy, apparently, and he's going to EF. So I'm actually pretty excited about that. I think he'll just be like a really good team support rider.
A lot of athletes living in Andorra because of the tax benefits. That's why they live there.
I think he was in Spain and he went to Andorra. He was somewhere, but he is the taxes. I know a lot of athletes have moved there.
Yeah, they all live in Andorra. That's the place you go to avoid taxes.
It's kind of like that's the place. Like if you're mega rich, you go to Monaco.
Yeah,
but like if you're rich-ish bike racer, you go to like Andorra. Like it's the more affordable rich person.
A lot of soccer players, and it's good training. I think it's really good training too. For
the mountain. The climbing is amazing.
The climbing is amazing there. So the terrain is really good, and you can dip into Spain, no problem. So yeah.
So he's really fun. I'm pretty excited. Otherwise, it's like so beyond that, we had the World Championships. Did we talk since then? But that was pretty awesome. Lotto Kopecky won the women's World Championship road race. Matthew Van Der Poel won the men's in Scotland. That was one of the best World Championship road races for the men's side, anyway, that I had seen in a while. With the Van Der Poel crash, the broken shoe, the breakaway, the rain, the city streets, that was such a great World Championship road race. I love that. Sepp Kuss, first American since Chris Horner to win the Vuelta.
Yeah,
I'm not sure how much of you caught, but
I was in Spain when that was happening. I was a train ride.
Were you?
Yeah, I was a train ride away from Madrid and actually considered jumping on a train that morning and
Oh
going
God.
into Madrid to see the final, but it didn't. At the end of the day, it didn't happen. But yeah, it was a possibility. But I got to watch it on the couch in Spain, and that was pretty good. So, and then I went for a bike ride up and down the Mediterranean to celebrate. So it was great.
That was really interesting. I'm sure we'll talk about it more at some point over the winter, but that was what a great win. He's the first American to win that since Chris Horner, and Horner was the very first, I believe. And
they love they love Sepp Kuss over in Spain.
Yeah, and he speaks Spanish pretty well, right?
Yeah, he speaks great, perfect Spanish. And
that's amazing.
His wife is Spanish. She's from Catalonia, I believe, and
that's cool.
Yeah, so he's totally integrated there. Everybody knows him and very well liked. I was watching a lot of the Spanish coverage, and they dig him over there quite a bit. So.
Oh yeah, I'm super stoked for him. I saw they had a big party for him this week in Durango, his hometown, and he was up there. He looked funny. He had these blue jeans on, but then he had the Jumbo Visma jersey all tight on. He had that kind of look. It was pretty funny, but good for him. What a great thing. And yeah, everyone's asking GC Kuss, GC Kuss let Kuss ride GC, and so finally he got a shot, and that was interesting. The dynamics, how it worked out with others from Jumbo. They're all on the podium, obviously, and others in contention, but he got the win. And some people are saying, well, he deserved it because he's worked so hard, and I think that's true as well. Anyway, so that was road, and now cyclocross season. So all the cyclocross races are happening. I'm going to the local ones. I'm watching the pro ones on TV. Went up to Wisconsin recently, and I went to the only World Cup that we have here left in the U.S. after two others have folded. But we got the Trek World Cup. That was super fun. Really good racing. Thibaut Nice won his first World Cup. The son of the great.
Man, check you out, Danny. You're right in the heart of the action.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it. Son of the great Sven Nice. His son now is carrying on that throne. So, what fantastic racing! Great epic weather we had all weekend. And now I'm going to be watching a lot of the Euro racing, but it's a good time of year, and it's only actually it's going fast. We still have November and the first half of December. So there's a good 6 weeks left of cyclocross in Chicago. And then obviously in the Euroland, it goes till February with World Championships. But anyway, that's just a little bit of racing recap that I've been following. A lot of news with the tour route presented. Obviously, everyone's going to obsess over that. All the teams will obsess over that. They'll be obsessing over which wheels and tires they're going to race on the gravel, and all those crazy climbs in the first week. And it's going to be fun, but I'm kind of tempted to head over there. It's been a while, but I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I'll just use up some of my points finally and just jump on a plane.
I recommend you go over there. It's nice. It's it's just it had been a few years since I'd been over there, and it's always nice to reconnect with that side of the world, and especially you and me. So we enjoy it there, and it's a reminder of why you enjoy it there. The just the whole scene, and if you like cycling, Europe is one of those places you really have to. If you haven't been there and you haven't done biking, if you haven't done the bike thing there, you should go and do that. It's you don't get. Here in the United States, you never get the chance to, you wouldn't be able to go play, baseball in Yankee Stadium. But, as a cyclist, you can go ride up, Alpe d'Huez and the Galibier. Yeah. You can ride these roads that you watch these professional cyclists go up. And, it's always, if you're into it, I think it's kind of a thrill, to be there and see, a lot of times the roads are still painted up, there's a fading paintings and signs of your favorite riders still on the roads, and I don't know, for me, it's always a fun thing.
Yeah, there's been so much going on. We'll have more to talk about in the coming episodes too.
We have a lot to catch up on. We can't fit it all into this show. Yeah, no, there's plenty to pick up on, and I'm sure that we're missing out on a bunch of stuff. But that we'll leave it for the next episode, right?
Good to chat again.
Yeah, we'll get into this groove again. So hang in there. everybody. Listen,
all right, folks,
listen.
Reach out if you have questions or comments, or you want someone to come on the show with us.
Yeah, that's right. It's mail@bikeshopsociety.com. Email us, man, please. You can also send us a message. Yeah, or social media. We're out there. Danny's a cycling reporter. He's at Cycling Reporter on X now. Oh, even that's changed, Danny, in the time that we've been on.
There you go. You say I updated the show notes?
Yeah, we're on X.
No longer Twitter.
And also on Instagram. So, yeah, we'll be there. Looking for you.
Super stoked. All right. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.